GeneralsGentlemen.
Hello, welcome to my new format for a Company of Heroes 2 video. Not quite final on the name, but I guess for now, Callum's Coh2 critique sounds pretty good because we like alliteration. So the reason why I kind of want to do this is because it'll be a format that's going to be easy for me to do. Basically, I don't have to cast it with Blake, I don't really have to do much editing, and also because it means that I'm not really neglecting the more casual players by only casting like the top pro games with the top pro players. It means that, yeah, the casual players that can be a fan of the show get a bit left out because we don't really do any of their content. So what this is going to be more of a like a analytics and critique focused video. So I'm going to be watching this game between Herzy and Skaruki. Herzy, of course, being our US. And I'm going to be watching it from his perspective. I'm not going to be, you know, looking at the fog of war, because I think it's going to be a bit unfair to try and give criticism when I can see everything through the fog of war. So first things first, I would probably veto this map, Laglese Breakout, honestly. I don't like it as allies, and the reason why is the early game's okay because Axis generally have pretty bad garrison clearing, but towards the late game, there's just so many choke points and so many shot blockers that it makes using tank destroyers and really just trying to kill the Axis armor very difficult. As Soviets, you have mines at least, so you can kind of make use of those choke points, but as US, it's, yeah. If you don't win the game by 15 minutes, it's just so hard to kill those tanks in the late game. So, double echelon, yeah, I'm not a fan of that. I think the reason why he's going for it is because of the anti-Kubel. It can be very hard dealing with Kubel wagons as Americans, and echelon spam is a good way to do that. But on this map, where there's so many garrisons, the OKW isn't going to go for the Kubel wagon. If it was an open map like Lungerers or Mink's Pocket, the Kubel is definitely a big issue. But on this map, riflemen in garrisons are all you need. So for a starter, I think the double echelon is really going to be a bit of a detriment. So it's going to be hard for me to actually keep up with everything going on here. That's actually a pretty smart play here. He'll win this battle, easy mode. I like that so far. Obviously, echelon retreating, that's the clever thing to do. I've swapped the camera over by accident, so a lot of Volks Grenadiers. Now, you got to be careful with Volks, because if you're trading with Volks Grenadiers at long range, they won't beat Riflemen, but they'll be trading evenly, and since Riflemen are much more expensive, then that isn't necessarily a good thing to do. Alright. So he's got 3 riflemen, he's got 2 echelon. You're probably going to see him go for a very, very fast lieutenant. That being said, though, pack howitzers is actually pretty good in this map, because you can just sort of leave it here and it's good against garrisons. I mean, there isn't really too much to comment on this early into the game. This is not a very good engagement here for our OKW. 3 swords of riflemen against 1 Volks, that's just not smart. So I like how Herzy's doing this. He's actually closing the gap in, wants to really punish the Volks on retreat. That's a great play, because now he's going to maybe even wipe this. Obviously, he should have been moving this squad in the back as well, try and get them up close. And there's the Kubel, so I was wrong. I was incorrect. He did go for a Kubel, but I think the Kubel isn't going to be a problem. That being said, the riflemen did break the cover. If riflemen, or really any infantry, if they're standing and they're staying behind heavy cover, and it's like actual heavy cover, like a brick wall or a sandbags, the Kubel can't suppress. So all you really have to do is either stay in a garrison or stay behind heavy cover, and the Kubel can't really do that much. I think the Kubel isn't a smart idea. I keep swapping the camera by accident, sorry. Again, like in this situation, he just walks in the garrison, Kubel can't do anything, unless he reacts too late, in which case the riflemen are already suppressed. So, really, in this case, he should just go in the garrison, but I guess he wants to neutralize the munitions, which is actually a pretty good play to make as well. Denying munitions is very, very important to do. So, yeah, that's okay. Denying munitions is actually doing very well. Herzy, for the record, this is a replay of him losing, and that's not really a spoiler alert, as that's kind of the point of this, is sending a replay where you win isn't very helpful for critique. So, yeah, having a really good early game. Good stuff so far. Has his lieutenant coming out. Probably going to go for an M20. M20s are always going to be really good against Kubel wagons. Even if there isn't a Kubel, M20 is just good against the matchup in general, as there isn't really any AT in the early game until the Shreks come online. Yeah, and I like the grouping as well. 3 squads against the 1, catching the Sturmpires out of position. Honestly, like this early, I don't really have that much to criticize here. He's doing well. Herzy's doing great. He's got most of the map. Here comes the M20. Ambulance following up. Getting the armored skirts. Yeah, great play. So, there might be some Volks coming out. Some Shreks coming out soon on the Volks Grenadiers. Not that Herzy actually knows that, obviously, but until that, yeah, this is a great play, chasing them down. You got to be careful with the flax though, base flax. He gets the Kubel snipe. Will he actually get it though? Yeah, he gets it. Hopefully he won't lose the M20 to the flag. This is probably a bit greedy. Ah, this is no, Herzy. Don't be the guy that dives the M20 into the base flax. Okay, he survives. That's good. Good to see he didn't actually lose it. Oh, but the Shreks. That's so unlucky. Ah, that's bad timing. Okay, so not exactly something that I can criticize him on, as it did pop the Shreks during the engagement, so he didn't really know it was coming. But still, going for the Kubel was great. I love the Kubel snipe. But then when he was like chasing the Sturmpires and trying to squad wipe, that was when it was a bit too greedy. You can do it against Wehrmacht because they have the MG42 bunkers, but against OKW with the base flax, it's very, very risky using your light vehicles that way. Also, since Wehrmacht, they only have Panzerfausts, whereas with the Volkstrex, you never know when they're coming. So they can kind of come out of nowhere and surprise you. So, risky play. But at least getting the Kubel is very important to do. So, a fuel cache. That's actually a really bad spot for your fuel cache. That's just bad. He's going to lose that to Volkstrex. Really what Herzy should be doing with the cache, in really any map or any situation, you pretty much always want to have the cache on the safest point. And for obvious reasons, it just makes it easier to defend and harder for your opponent to kill. The only time that's really an exception is if you want to put on a cutoff, because then it prevents your opponent from decapturing your cutoff. For example, Lungroskaya North or Semoski, where there's that cutoff that's really brutal. But in this situation, I just don't understand why he wanted it that far away. And I think the fuel cache is actually a good idea. And the reason why is because he's so far ahead. When you're that far ahead, you can further your lead by having those caches, but I just don't like the placement, at least. Otherwise, let's have a look at Herzy. He's got a lot of fuel, so he could go for his M15. Personally, I think that'd be a bad idea, because he already went for the M20. You don't want to delay your Shermans too much, so by the looks of things, we'll probably just see him go for his Major, and really try and rush out that Sherman. Where is his ambulance? Okay, here it is. This is not very active with repairing his rifleman. There we go, healing. Okay, cool. So, also looking at Herzy, he does have 200 munitions, and I really like bars. A lot of people don't like bars because they cost fuel, but it's only 15 fuel. I mean, come on, 15 fuel is not a lot of fuel. Oh man, oh no, Herzy, he may lose that rifleman squad. Oh, that's really bad. Okay, now, I'm just going to pause this quickly. Now, what you can actually do, what you should always do, is when you have a squad, I don't think I can really show you via replay, but okay, so when you have a squad in a garrison, the best way to evacuate is you never hit like the evacuate button. You press tab, or there's a little icon, and that changes the I might actually edit this in. It changes what the icon looks like, and then you can right click to decide which door they actually exit from. If he evacuated from this door here, he would have just had the retreat path straight to his base. He would have survived. But because he evacuated, he probably did it manually. Sorry, automatically. He probably didn't actually set the door. It meant that they got out right into the Sturm Pioneers. Brutal. That's a very brutal wipe. As I was saying, I would probably go for bars, because bars are... they're really going to help against infantry, especially Volks and Sturm Pios. This is probably going to be squad wipe here. Yeah, he may lose this. Bear in mind, the Sturm Officer does give extra accuracy. Sturm Pioneers were microed very poorly, so he might actually survive this one, but he should have lost those. Either way, here comes the reinforcement. This is a bad engagement because there is the heavy cover here, and it's just outnumbered. You should never engage when you're outnumbered. There's just no real reason to. He has the bar on the Lieutenant, but it doesn't really matter. Sturm Pioneers is going to be very brutal. You got to focus the Sturms. You have to focus the Sturm Pioneers, and now, again, he may wipe the Lieutenant. Bad focusing from OKW. He could have focused the Lieutenant squad and chased it on retreat and wiped it. So Sturm Pioneers, not only do they do more damage than Vulture Grenadiers, they also die faster. Actually, an M15 comes out. I don't really like this because there's already the Shrek on the field. So it's going to be harder to use that. Also, another thing about this map, the garrisons make it harder to use the M15. Because not only is it going to... Oh, that's a mortar half-track. Sorry, that's not an M15. It's a mortar half-track. Okay. Mortar half-tracks, they're pretty good against garrisons. But so are HE Shermans, honestly. I think the mortar half-tracks aren't that good. They definitely have their uses, but I think if you're going to get them, you have to get them quite early. Because it takes for them a while to really start making the impact, and it will delay your fuel, so it delays your Sherman. And this is a matchup that is very dependent on that Sherman timing. You really want to rush that Sherman out and just do maximum damage until there really is some hard AT on the field. So this is really brutal because the OKW has a Sturm Officer, which gives him really good accuracy. So it's very hard to play these infantry engagements against the OKW blobs with the Officer. So I think we need to see a bit more blobbing coming out of Herzy because he can't really fight the small engagements. And he needs to focus either the Sturm Pioneers or the Sturm Officer. If you actually focus the Sturm Officer, and if you're lucky enough to get the officer himself on the squad, it actually retreats not only the officer, but like everything else nearby. And then even if you force it away, either way, it's going to be removing that buff. So Vulture Grenadiers, they have a lot of health, they have a very low reinforce cost. Same with Panzer Fusiliers, so focusing them isn't that great, but really the Sturm Pioneers have been doing a lot this game. They have Vet 2 already. Sturm Pioneers can take a while to get veterancy normally. So, ooh, is that a Stuart? Oh, sorry, that's not a Stuart. That's a howitzer carriage. I would have preferred to see a Sherman. Sorry, a Sherman. Shermans you can be a lot more aggressive with. You can really wipe squads on retreat because the HE has a lot of potential. But then the pintle-matted machine gun, you really can chase units down on retreat and wipe those squads. The M8's good, but it's better against static positions. It's better when you can't play aggressive. Like, say, if you're versing a Wehrmacht and they have, like, double packs, and you can't really use your Sherman because they just have so much AT. But in this case, there's only one Shrek, you know, probably a second one coming up soon, but that's not really a lot. A Sherman can deal with that. And when there's no Panzerfausts, the Sherman can be very, very aggressively, and that's a lot more beneficial to then having an M8. So, in this situation, I would have gone for Sherman. Also, then obviously the Sherman can transition into AT a lot better, but the M8 can definitely work. It's a bit of preference, bit of play style. So thus far, still Herzy has a very good control, and he's actually gone infantry company. So that explains why he didn't go bars. He definitely does love his M19s. He's been on my stream a fair bit before, so that's good. As long as he goes for those M19s. Doesn't really matter, bars or an M19s, either way, they're both good and they're both very, very important. Just go for either of them. So I'd love to see him go for those M19s right away. The M19s are also really good on rear echelon. Because rear echelon, they're very cheap to reinforce. They still have good veterancy bonuses. Vet 2 gives them... Sorry, is it Vet 3? Yeah, Vet 3 gives them extra accuracy. And that's not the case for other engineers. Whether it be Pioneers or the combat engineers for Soviets, they don't have any combat veterancy bonuses, and that's what Echelon do. So Echelon, very, very nice with support weapons, whether it be bars, whether it be M19s, but especially M19s. So if he does end up floating a bit of manpower, yeah, he went for a rifleman squad. You could have gone for the Echelon instead, because Echelon, then the damage is just dreadful, but the damage on the M19 is the exact same. Whether or not it's Echelon, whether or not it's Rifleman, it's the weapon that does the damage. So having those powerful weapons on a very cheap, spammable squad can be quite nice. So we have the Panzer headquarters on the field, and when you see a Panzer headquarters, there's really two options. There's going to be Obersoldaten spam, Panzer 2, and like maybe a Panther rush, but the Panther will take quite a while. So this is another reason why I like the Sherman, because Sherman's going to be good at dealing with both the Obersoldaten, but also the Panzer 2 as well. Whereas with the mortar carriage and the howitzer, sorry, the mortar half-track and the howitzer carriage, neither of those can deal with the Panzer 2, and they're both going to be trying to, what's the word for it, doing the same role. They're kind of competing with each other, so and they won't have as much impact as a result. So I like this. Now we have all of our M19s, but if we actually have a look at the territory, we see that Herzy has pretty much lost the entire map. The Panzer 2, that's going to be deadly. That can wipe squads on retreat very effectively. You have to be very careful about that Panzer 2. Stern Pioneers as well on the road. This could easily be a squad wipe for our lieutenant. Panzer 2 should have been chasing that one a little bit more aggressively, but it looks like he should survive. Maybe not. Meanwhile, let's have a look at the middle. Yeah, doing some really nice damage here. Won't quite get the wipe though. And the lieutenant survives. So for Herzy, it'd be great to go for an AT gun, but he went lieutenant, so he can't actually get the M1 out. One of the downsides of playing Allies, or US rather, is your AT is a bit hard to go if you actually went lieutenant. So I think the reason why he's lost the map is because he didn't go the Sherman. He didn't continue the momentum. And that's entirely because of not only the mortar half-track, but also the howitzer carriage. If he went for a Sherman, he could play a lot more aggressively. He could force squads off the map, he could do a lot of manpower damage, maybe get some squad wipes if he's lucky, and he would still have a response to the Panzer 2. I'm sure the Panzer 2 wouldn't have been there if it was for a Sherman, but that's really, I think, the main problem here, is the howitzer carriage and the mortar. This is going to be a bad retreat, he may lose the squad. Is that actually a smoke? I think that's a smoke barrage. That's actually pretty safe. He's trying to cover the retreat for the rifleman. It didn't really do that much, but regardless, it does survive. He needs to try and get the AT grenades on those Panzer 2s so you can retreat through it. But now he's going to lose the squad. Panzer 2s are just so good at wiping squads. He's on bazookas. No, that's the wrong response. Bazookas are absolutely trash. Oh, man. Oh, this is bad news for Herzy. He's going to lose his mortar half-track as well. And look at it, it's got 1 kill. That's what I was referring to. Mortar half-tracks, they just don't really do a lot. Admittedly, it wasn't firing that much, but they're just not very good. So, was that a bazooka I saw? Yeah, he's got a bazooka on the lieutenant. But so bazookas, they have an incredibly low accuracy, so they miss all the bloody time. And even if they do hit, like, it doesn't do that much. It did about 1/7. So, there's no real kill potential. He's going to lose the squad. That's obviously just... Okay, he retreats it. That's obviously just a misplay there, but... Oh, man. This is so over. Herzy has lost this game. Yeah, that Ambrose... This is... You got to play more defensive. When the Panzer 2 is here, you can't have lone squads. Because the Panzer 2 just wipes them on retreat. Bazookas are trash. Not only do they miss a lot, but... Unless you actually land an anti-tank grenade, then the bazookas just won't have the damage to burst down the Panzer 2 before it drives away. And now Herzy, he can almost afford his Sherman, because he's been pushed back off the entire map. It's going to be pretty close to the Panther. And then by the time the Panther shows up, he probably won't have enough AT for it. So... going at Jackson would be nice for the Panther eventually, but then he won't have enough anti-infantry for these Volksgrenadiers. So this is kind of a lose-lose situation, and this is kind of the thing where once you get to this situation in the matchup, you can't really come back from it. Because OKW late game is just so overpowered with the veterancy bonuses, the Volks Blob Shreks, the Panthers. If you lose the momentum, it's very, very hard to come back from. It is a very momentum-based matchup, and that's kind of the same with Soviets versus OKW, but especially US. Because Soviets, they have a lot better late game. They have the IS-2s, the T-34-85s. There isn't really any equivalent for the US. So he should go with Sherman now. He needs the Sherman. At least if he has bazookas and a Sherman, he'll have a bit of extra AT for the Panther when it eventually shows up. He still won't have terrible infantry engagements because he has the M19s, but he's just lost too many squads. Just to being a little bit out of position and just being collapsed upon by the Panzer II and the Blob. So, yeah, it's punishing, and it's hard from this point on. Yeah, like this. Like, you just can't engage this, because if you're, like, ever so slightly out of position, the Blob just does this, and then you just can't retreat. You'll lose your squads. I don't really know what he's doing. He probably should have retreated earlier, but either way, this is going to be a lose-lose. Yeah, way too late on the retreat, but probably didn't matter that much. Again, nice smoke. He's trying to cover the smoke, and surprisingly, both of those squads actually survive, and this is entirely because of the poor micro from our OKW. If he was chasing those squads better and anticipating the retreat, he definitely could have wiped them. So, not exactly the best play from the OKW either, by any means. And there's a Sherman coming out. So that's going to be good, but he has a very small... Wow, that was a nice shot. Nice. But he has a very small window for it to really have a high impact before the Panther shows up. Looking at OKW, he has like 150 fuel. The Panther needs 175. Obviously, Herzy doesn't know that, but you can just look at the map and say, I have no fuel. He has twice the fuel. He has the entire map. He has a massive fuel advantage, so he obviously is going to have that Panther coming up soon. Also, the OKW is floating so much manpower, so the OKW really isn't that good, to be honest. But, you don't really have to be good to win OKW in the late game. So, that's kind of my allied fanboy biasm, but, like, yeah. Rebuilding the ambulance, I don't know. This is going to be hard. When the Panther shows up, and the Volksrex, the Sherman's going to die. But he kind of had to go it for the anti-infantry. Jackson just wouldn't have worked on its own. So Herzy, he needs to either stall for the Jackson, which is probably going to take a very long time, because he doesn't really have much map, or he needs to try and get more bazookas. But more bazookas means less anti-infantry on his riflemen, and again, bazookas aren't very good anyway. The penetration is very, very low, so even if they hit a Panther, they won't necessarily do a lot of damage. Bazookas are just crappy. He shouldn't have gone bazookas, honestly. If anything, you're probably better off going tier 3 and then just building an AT gun, but it costs so much fuel. One of the advantages of going airborne is so you can just power drop in those AT guns, but that's once again, that's the momentum that I'm talking about, is you can't really play behind from US, because if you go lieutenant, then you don't have any AT guns, and bazookas are trash, they're not an option, so unless you go captain, it's very, very hard to play from behind. You have to just be so aggressive. This is a nice angle here. He does have the Sherman. Did he hit a mine? Oh no, that was the anti-tank grenade from the Panzer Fusiliers. One thing to bear in mind is they do have AT grenades. So they do have the snares, which is a blessing for OKWs. There isn't really anything that does. It's only the Fallschirmjäger and my Facebook. No, and the Fallschirmjäger and the Panzer Fusiliers. So, I might just go ahead and close my Facebook. One moment. Okay, that's better. Cool. So, Herzy probably should just evacuate the vehicle crew to repair the Sherman, rather than driving it with a damaged engine. It pretty much repairs instantly. He also has the repair critical at Veterancy 1, so it's very, very instantaneous. You gotta be careful of the grenades though when you do the defensive stance. You can't really dodge them. He will retreat that one. So, it's nice to see Herzy taking back the map. He does need to hold the field. That's his priority, because he needs the Jackson. He can't deal with the Panther without a Jackson, and he's actually not that far off. 70 fuel. I think it's 125. So, nice M8 shot. He is taking these squads pretty low. I think he needs to play very defensively. He needs to sort of keep his riflemen together. He needs to keep his Sherman protecting his riflemen. And if he stalls out until he has the Jackson, then he'll be okay. He'll be okay. But that being said, the OKW is just floating a stupid amount of manpower. So it's kind of unfortunate when you look at it. Like, the game isn't that uneven, but it's because the OKW is just bad and isn't actually building stuff. Like, he could have way more squads. He could have Obersoldaten, which he should. He could have more Raketenwerfers. Yeah, he can't fight. This is a bad engagement. He shouldn't really be fighting with his infantry. He should just be getting vision for his M8s. But look at the Panzer. He may lose this one. The bazooka in the garrison. Will it get the killing blow? Panzer backs away and the bazooka misses. Sherman driving in. The Panther's coming up soon, but he may be able to snipe this one down. Sherman's actually focusing the wrong squads. Nice engagement actually coming out of Herzy. But he's very, very deep. This is going to be pretty bad timing, especially if he goes within the range of the AT grenade. Oh man, he may get the AT grenade. This is deadly. He could wipe a lot of squads here with the HE. Oh, he gets the Volkstrex. He gets the officer, but that's the Panther. And he's going to lose that Sherman now. Again, it's hard to know the timing. It's kind of hard to watch that and go, that was a bad play because the Sherman killed him. I mean, he didn't know the Panther. He didn't know the Panther was coming. But again, when your opponent has so much more territory than you and he has a fuel lead, you got to expect those tanks to come. And this is probably game over now, because even if he gets the Jackson, a Jackson can't 1v1 a Panther because it just has such little health and little armor. But with the Sherman, you can use this Sherman as a meat shield to sort of scout and to absorb the damage for the Jackson. So you kind of need both of those tanks to deal with the Panther. But only one of them, not really enough. And that's kind of why I prefer, another reason why I prefer the Sherman over the M8 is because it transitions better into the late game. The M8, yeah, it's doing some good damage, but he's going to lose this here. That was just a really bad placement. He should have known the Panther's going to be around somewhere. Yeah. That's game over. Herzy can actually afford a Jackson. I guess one thing to bear in mind is that he does have a lot of bazookas. So he probably doesn't need the Sherman because of the bazookas. But if we start watching this engagement, we're going to see how little the bazookas actually penetrate. I think that was an AT grenade that bounced. That could be deadly. If the AT grenade penetrated and got the damage engine, he would have taken a fair bit of damage from the bazookas, but realistically, the blob would have just moved in and forced away the bazookas. Yeah, see, they just don't penetrate. And the Panther actually isn't that bad against infantry. It's implemented machine gun and it's regular machine guns. They do some okay damage. So he's actually going for his Jackson now. That's smart. He doesn't really have much of a choice. And so he can theoretically kill the Panther, but I think it's going to require a bit of a misplay. And as I sort of said at the start of the game, it's a very hard map to use Jacksons, or really any tank destroyers, Su-85, Panzer IVs. Time on target arty, yeah, that was kind of a waste really. I mean, maybe he could have just gone rear echelon spam. Yeah. You can't really do that and just sort of like hope my opponent is bad and doesn't look, because it's really easy to dodge those artilleries, and it's just now he's just thrown out 180 munitions, and you got to think of the opportunity cost. That 180 munitions is 3 M19s. He could have gone 2 squads of echelon. He could have got 3 M19s. That would have given him a very strong boost to his anti-infantry firepower, or he could have gone 3 bazookas. Either of those would have been much more effective. There was a very small chance of that actually killing squads. It's only really worth it if it's like static positions, like if it's a pack gun or a couple of support weapons, and the time it takes for them to set up allows you to attack. Yeah. Let's have a look at this Jackson. He has, I think it's 4 bazookas, but as a result, it's a lot less anti-infantry firepower that he desperately needs against the Panzer Fusiliers and even the Volksgrenadiers. It's very hard to engage those infantry fights when the OKW has a lot of veterancy, especially against Obersoldaten. Obersoldaten are just ridiculously cost effective. He may lose that garrison. Ooh, lucky. Almost blew up.
300 points remaining.
So still, Herzy is fighting for the map and he's actually doing okay. For him, the fuel really is the priority because he needs to get just more tanks. It's going to be less about the infantry now. Herzy really should have retreated a lot earlier. Like, that was a situation where there was no chance of him possibly winning. And there's the Jackson. He will find the Panzer II. Will he get the second shot, though? That's what he needs. Shrek does come through as well. The Panzer II is actually juking the main gun. The Panther there as well has shown its face. Nice retreat. Will the Jackson actually kill it? Oh, it misses. That sucks. Oh, no. And the Panther kills it.
We just lost a medium tank.
Yeah, that's why it's so hard to use the Jackson. Because they're so weak, they're so fragile. You really got to have things scouting for it. This game is clearly over. So I don't think there's much point in me watching this from now on. Like, there isn't really much more I can grab from this. As you can see, bazookas are trash. And not only are they crap against vehicles, they also prevent you getting those anti-infantry weapons. Looks like the OKW hasn't actually salvaged this. He really should salvage the Sherman. Gives you extra fuel. Very, very important to do that as OKW. Stuka as well. Yeah. It's kind of the stage where the only way Herzy can possibly win this is if the OKW throws like really, really hard. Like really hard. Even then, he's just got so much manpower, he can just put Obersoldaten. Yeah. I just want to sort of watch the end just to make sure I haven't missed anything. I want to do my long rant at the end. Yeah, the Panzer II. Yeah, Stuka. Man, that Stuka would really be deadly if it hits here. He actually went captain for his AT guns. It's interesting. Yeah, too much veterancy on these infantry. Not a chance.
Just got a report of an infantry unit being wiped out.
So I might as well start my rant then. This is the stage where you just GG. Like you just can't win against OKW late game. Yeah. Cool. I guess it's kind of just out of respect that I want to watch the end of this game. Times 8.
Down to 100 points. I say again, allies at 100 points.
Oh, the VPs as well. 75 VPs.
Allied
Yeah.
AT gun has been destroyed.
And this will be it.
Krauts have cut our supply line. Frontline units are being
GG.
hung out to dry.
Okay, cool. So, I did sort of mention it earlier. US versus really OKW or Wehrmacht, both of those, but I think especially OKW. I'm just going to turn his music down, and it's kind of annoying. It's very momentum based, and Herzy had a really great early game. So he had most of the territory. He had a massive munitions increase. So he had a lot of weapons available. He had really great fuel, so he could have had his Sherman very soon. But by going not so much the mortar half track, but mainly the M8, especially combining the M8 with the mortar half track, it meant that he had no front line. He had no tank. He didn't have the Sherman, so he couldn't continue to hold the territory. And that was actually a really smart counter. I don't know if it was intentional or not, but going to the Panzer II when there was the M8, it meant that the Panzer II was just forcing off all of those squads around the map, and there wasn't really any contention. He didn't have any mines because he's US. You don't get mines as US. Bazookas just not worth it. Didn't have AT guns, and even if you did have AT guns, if you weren't captain, again, it's the momentum. It's very defensive, and if you lose the territory, then you lose the ability to spam those tanks, to spam those upgrades. So that's pretty much it. He did okay for the most part, but if you just forgot about the don't go the half track, don't go the M8, rush the Sherman, use the Sherman very, very aggressively, force squads off, pretty much do what the Panzer II did to him. You just drive around the map, forcing off squads, ideally getting squad wipes. You can do that very easily with the HE Shermans. And then if you do that well enough, you should have the Panzer II, the Jackson in time for the Panther. And the Sherman plus the Jackson gives you plenty of AT. That's all you'd really need against the Panther. Especially if the OKW decided to go for his Obersoldaten, then it's even harder to trade, and the Shermans are very good against Obers. They have a very high wipe chance, because it's only a 4-man squad. So you can get the HE, get a 3-man model loss, and use the main gun to chase them on retreat. So that's really it. Is if you're playing US, you have to be more aggressive. You got to just hold the territory, rush the tanks, whether it be a Stuart or the M20. Those are both very, very important to the matchup. You get them out as soon as you can, force off the map, then transition into a Sherman. Keep going very, very aggressively. Yeah, M8s, I like M8s, but I just don't like them that early. I think you have to go the Sherman first. And then you go the M8 to counter the packs, for example. If you're playing against Wehrmacht or OKW and you rush the Sherman and then they respond to it by going double pack, double Raketenwerfer, then the M8's very, very powerful. And it did okay. It got 17 kills. But that's not enough. It's not about the kills, it's about the territory. So I think that'll wrap this up. That should be it. If you want to send in your own replay, be sure to do that at generalsgentlemen@gmail.com. I'll take a look at the replay, give a bit of insight, bit of critique, bit of analytics. But that'll wrap it up. My name is The Machine. Thanks for watching.